She sold akara under the scorching sun and pouring rain just to keep her children alive, while the man she sacrificed everything for was secretly living with another woman. But Chioma had no idea. One man had been silently watching her pain, admiring her strength, and slowly falling in love with the woman the world abandoned. Sometimes a woman does not break all at once. She breaks quietly, little by little, while still trying to survive. After Tunde left, Chioma's life didn't just change. It slowly broke apart in layers. At first, she tried to stay strong. She told herself it was just temporary, that maybe Abuja was really busy, that maybe he was working hard, that maybe he would call when it's settled. So she waited. She waited while taking care of her children alone. She waited while the rent started becoming difficult. She waited while the silence from Tunde stretched longer than her patience. But life does not wait with you. It keeps moving, even when you are stuck. The first real blow came when they could no longer afford their one-room and parlor apartment. The landlord had been patient for a while, but patience does not pay rent. One morning, he came with a final decision. Chioma begged quietly. She even tried to explain that her husband was supposed to send money soon. But even as she said it, she already knew the truth was slipping away. There was no money coming, there was no call, there was no help. That was the day she packed her children and left. No drama, no shouting, just silent defeat. They moved into a face me, I face you single room. Small, hot, crowded, humbling. A place where she could hear neighbors' arguments through the thin walls, where she could smell other people's cooking, where privacy no longer existed. Chioma stood inside that room the first night, holding her baby, looking around slowly, like she was trying to understand how life had brought her there. Her son sat quietly on the floor, confused, and for a moment, she almost broke completely. But then the baby cried, and reality returned. She was still a mother, so she swallowed the pain, and she survived. From that day, everything changed. Chioma had to find a way. Not a comfortable way, not a planned way, just a way. That was when she started frying akara by the roadside. Every morning before sunrise, she would wake up quietly so her children wouldn't feel her struggle too much. She would tie a simple wrapper, carry her baby girl on her back, and hold her small frying pan and charcoal stove. Her 4-year-old son would walk beside her barefoot, sometimes holding her wrapper, sometimes just following silently, like he already understood too much for his age. The roadside was never kind. Some mornings the sun would be so hot that sweat would mix with smoke as she fried. Other mornings, rain would fall suddenly and scatter her fire, making everything difficult again. People passed her every day. Some bought akara without looking at her face. Some looked at her with pity and walked away. Some didn't even notice her at all. But Chioma noticed everything. She noticed how life had changed her from a woman who once dreamed to a woman who now counted coins before eating. She noticed how her hands no longer looked soft, how her body no longer rested, how her nights no longer had peace. And still, she kept going because her children were watching her. Sometimes, her son would sit beside her and ask quietly, "Mommy, are we going to eat today?" And that question always hit her deeper than anything else. Because he was not asking for luxury, he was asking for survival. Chioma would pause a moment, turn away so he wouldn't see her eyes, and force a smile that hurt her face. "Yes, my baby," she would say softly. "We will eat." Even when she wasn't sure, even when her heart was breaking inside, even when she had nothing left except hope she was pretending to be living. And every night, after the day's struggle, she would return to that small room, sit on the floor with her children, and stare into silence, waiting. Not for luxury, not for comfort, but for the man who promised Abuja and left her with nothing but survival. And that was how Chioma's new life truly began. Not with dreams, not with love, but with pain and the kind of strength that only suffering teaches.
Chioma never imagined her life would reach this point. She had come from a home where things were easy, where help was always one phone call away, where sickness did not turn into fear because there was always someone to run to. But that life was gone now, completely gone. She had chosen Tunde, and with that choice, she lost her family. Her father's words still echoed in her memory sometimes. "You are no longer my daughter." After that day, there was no more home to return to, no more mother's comfort, no more father's protection, only silence. Now she stood alone in a small face me I face you room, holding a child she could not afford to lose. Her 4-year-old son was burning with fever. His small body felt hot like fire when she touched him. "Mommy," he whispered weakly, lying on the thin mattress, "my head is paining me." Chioma's heart dropped immediately. No, my baby, don't talk like that," she said quickly, touching his forehead again. "You will be fine. You will be fine." But deep inside her, fear was rising fast. Her 11-month-old baby girl was crying in the corner, sensing the tension in the room. Chioma looked around helplessly. There was no money, not even enough for transport, but she still carried her son in her arms. "No, I cannot lose you," she whispered as she tied him to her back quickly. I cannot. She rushed out into the street. The sun was already harsh, but she didn't feel it. Her mind was only on her child's breathing. At the pharmacy, she stood quietly for a moment, holding her sick son tightly. The pharmacist looked at her. "What do you want to buy?" Chioma swallowed hard. Her voice shook. "Please, something for fever, for a child." The man brought out the medicine and told her the price. Chioma froze. She blinked slowly, like she didn't hear it well. "You say?" He repeated it. The amount was more than what she had. Far more. Her hand started shaking immediately. She opened her small purse, counted coins, checked again, even knowing it wouldn't be enough. But she still tried. "Please, can you reduce it small? My child is very sick," she said softly. The pharmacist shook his head. He gave the little boy just 2 tablets. That is the price of the money she had. That was all. Chioma stepped outside slowly. The moment she reached outside the shop, her strength broke. She sat down on the ground with her child still on her back and started crying. Not loud at first, just silent tears. Then it became heavier. "My God," she whispered, "please, don't take my son from me." She held him tightly. "I don't have anybody again. Please, don't do this to me." And people passed by. Some looked, some ignored her, but Chioma didn't care anymore. She cried like someone who had reached the end of her strength. And in that moment, she thought about her mother. Just her mother. If she could just hear her voice, if she could just call and say, "Mommy, my child is sick." But she couldn't, because pain and rejection stood in the way. So she sat there on the cold ground, rocking her feverish son, whispering prayers through tears. "God, please heal him. Don't let anything happen to him. I will manage. I will suffer. Just let him live." And as the rain clouds slowly gathered above her again,
Chioma realized something painful. She was no longer the daughter of a rich home. She was just a mother trying not to lose her child in a world that no longer cared. After that terrifying night at the pharmacy, Chioma thought she had lost everything. She sat on the ground for hours, holding her sick son, crying until her voice disappeared. But something strange happened that night. She did not sleep. She stayed awake, touching his forehead every few minutes, whispering prayers she wasn't even sure would be answered. Then slowly, the fever began to reduce. By morning, his breathing was calmer. By afternoon, he opened his eyes properly and asked weakly, "Mommy, I'm hungry." Chioma froze. She checked his body again. The heat was going down. Her hands shook as she touched him again. "No, God," she whispered. "You didn't take him?" Tears filled her eyes immediately, but this time not from pain, from relief, from gratitude, from survival. She pulled him close and cried again, but softer this time. "Thank you, thank you." Days passed after that. Chioma didn't even understand how, but things slowly started changing. It began small. One morning, instead of one customer buying akara, 2 people stopped, then 3, then more. People began noticing her food again. "Madam, your akara is sweet, oh," one woman said while buying. Another man even came back the next day. "Yesterday's one was nice. Give me again." Chioma didn't know what changed, but she didn't question it. She just kept frying. She kept showing up. Slowly, money started coming in small. For the first time in a long while, she could buy food without counting coins too many times. She could even smile a little again when her children ate properly. But what Chioma didn't know was that something deeper was happening behind the scenes. Her mother, her own mother, the woman she had been forbidden from seeing, the woman she still dreamed of calling at night, the woman who cried silently for her child she was not allowed to reach. After Chioma's father had threatened her 2 years ago, after he said, "If you try to go to her, I will deal with you. She's no longer our daughter." Her mother had been forced to stay away publicly. But a mother does not stop being a mother. So she found another way. Quietly, secretly, without Chioma knowing, she sent people, regular customers, people who would go to Chioma's akara spot and deliberately buy most of her food. Sometimes they would even act like normal customers, but they were sent just to support her. Buy everything she has, her mother would quietly instruct from afar. Make sure she is not hungry. Chioma only saw success. She only saw that her small business was improving. She didn't see the invisible hands lifting her up from a distance. And for the first time in a long time, she began to breathe again. She paid rent without begging. She bought food without fear. Her children stopped sleeping hungry. One evening, she sat outside her small room, watching her children eat. Her son was laughing again. Her baby girl was clapping her tiny hands. Chioma smiled softly, tired but grateful. "Maybe things are finally changing," she whispered to herself. But deep inside her heart, there was still a silence she could not explain. Because no matter how things improved, one question never left her mind. "Tunde, where are you?" One morning, while Chioma was frying akara by roadside like usual, something happened that would slowly change her life again. A car stopped nearby. At first, she didn't pay attention. People stopped every day. But this one man didn't just pass. He stepped down. Well-dressed, calm, polite. He walked straight to her small stand and pointed at her akara. "Give me," he said simply. Chioma quickly smiled, adjusting her apron while the baby was still tied on her back. "Yes, sir. "My very good customer," she replied warmly, handing him a plate. He looked at her food, then took a bite. He paused, then smiled. "This is very nice," he said honestly. "I haven't eaten akara like this in a long time." Chioma laughed softly. "Thank you, sir." From that day, he started coming back. Again and again. Sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon. And every time, he bought more than usual. "I like your akara," he would always say. "It tastes different." Chioma would smile every time he saw him. "My very good customer is back again," she would say happily, even while balancing her baby and turning the akara in hot oil. Life was still not easy for her. She was still struggling, still walking under the sun, still carrying her baby on her back. But now, there was something different. Hope. With the small money she was making, Chioma was able to improve her little business. She bought a big umbrella stand to protect herself from sun and rain. She placed a long wooden bench beside it so customers could sit comfortably while eating. Slowly, her small roadside spot started looking like a real small business. People now came and sat down. They ate and laughed. They even recommended her food to others. Chioma would still be there every day, smiling as she walked, even when her body was tired. And her children began to feel it too. Her son started laughing more. Her baby girl became calmer. For the first time in a long while, there was light in their home again. Then one day, the same man came again. But this time, he didn't just come to buy food. He stood there for a moment, watching her carefully. "Madam Chioma?" She looked up quickly. "Yes, sir." He hesitated a little, then spoke. "I want you to start supplying akara to my school." He paused and continued. "I own a school." Chioma paused, confused. He continued. "I've been eating your akara for a while now, and I like it." Then he said something that made her heart stop for a moment. "I want you to supply akara to my school every Tuesday and Thursday." Silence. Chioma blinked like she didn't hear him properly. "Me, sir?" He nodded. "Yes, you." For a moment, she couldn't speak. Her hands trembled slightly. Her eyes filled slowly. Then she smiled, a real smile this time, not forced, not tired. "Are you serious?" she asked softly. He replied, "I am." Chioma looked at her children. Her son was standing beside her, smiling. Her baby girl was strapped to her back, quiet and safe. She turned back to the man, and tears almost came out. "Thank you, sir," she said gently. "Thank you." That night, Chioma walked home slower than usual, not because she was tired, but because something inside her had changed. For the first time in a long time, life was not just survival, it was becoming something more. Hope was quietly returning, and Chioma didn't even know this was only the beginning. Things were finally getting better for Chioma. The akara supply to the school had become stable. Every Tuesday and Thursday, she delivered in bulk, and for the first time in a long while, she could breathe without fear. Money was coming in steadily. Food was no longer a daily struggle. Her children were eating well. Even the small face me I face you room felt a little lighter. Chioma had started believing again, slowly, not in miracles, but in survival turning into progress. That morning, she was arranging her things when her neighbor suddenly came rushing to her. "Chioma," the woman called, slightly out of breath. Chioma looked up. "Yes." The woman hesitated, then spoke. "I saw your husband." Chioma froze. Her hand stopped moving immediately. "My husband?" she repeated slowly. "Yes, Tunde. I saw him at Royal Hotel. I work there. I know him very well." For a second, Chioma just stood still, like her brain refused to process it. Then she whispered, "Tunde?" Her voice cracked slightly. "Are you sure?" The woman nodded firmly. I'm very sure that's your husband. That was all Chioma needed. Something inside her snapped. She quickly tied her wrapper, carried her baby girl to her back, and grabbed her son's hand. Let's go, she said sharply. Where, Mommy? The boy asked. She didn't answer. She just kept walking, fast, almost running. Rain suddenly began to fall, but she didn't stop. She didn't even notice it. Her mind was only on one thing, Tunde. When she reached Royal Hotel, she was already soaked. Her clothes clung to her body. Her hair stuck to her face, but she didn't care. She rushed to the entrance. Please, she said breathlessly to the security man, my husband is inside. I just want to see him. The guard blocked her. Madam, you cannot enter like this. Please, she cried again. I've been looking for him for months. But he still refused. She struggled slightly, desperation rising in her voice. And just as tension built, the elevator doors inside opened and he came out. Tunde. Clean, confident, dressed sharply. Beside him was a beautiful woman holding his hand tightly, too tightly, like she belonged there. Chioma froze instantly. Everything stopped. The rain, the noise, the world. Then her voice broke out loud. Tunde! The sound echoed. Tunde turned, and the moment his eyes met hers, he froze too. Before he could react, her little boy broke free and ran forward. Daddy! That single word hit the air like thunder. Tunde didn't move. He couldn't. His face went blank. Shock, confusion, guilt, everything at once. Chioma stepped forward slowly, her voice shaking now. You are in Lagos all this time? Tunde said nothing. Words failed him. Chioma laughed softly, but it wasn't joy. It was pain. So you were here while I was suffering? Tears filled her eyes immediately. I thought you were gone. I thought something happened to you. I begged God. I cried every day. Her voice broke completely. But you were alive. Silence. She looked at him one more time. All my sacrifices, choosing you over my family, losing everything. Her lips trembled. This is what you did with it? The woman beside Tunde shifted uncomfortably, still holding his hand. Chioma didn't even look at her again. She just slowly bent down, held her son's hand tightly, adjusted her baby on her back. No more shouting, no more begging, just silence. Then she turned and walked away. Rain falling harder, but this time, it wasn't the rain that broke her. It was the truth she could no longer escape.
Tunde stood frozen. He couldn't move. He couldn't speak. His eyes followed Chioma as she held her two children and slowly walked away through the heavy rain, like a woman carrying years of pain on her back, like someone who had finally accepted what she could no longer change. The lady beside Tunde slowly turned to him in shock. You were married?" she asked quietly. But Tunde didn't answer. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. For the first time in a long while, he looked powerless, helpless. As Chioma's figure became smaller in the rain, something inside him cracked. But it was too late. Chioma didn't look back, not even once. She just kept walking. Her son held her hand tightly. Her baby girl pressed against her back, and she disappeared into the rain. That was when people around started reacting, talking, murmuring. Some had pulled out their phones, recording, whispering. "Is that not the man from the hotel? See the woman, she has children. Chai, what is going on here?" The rain, the shock, the silence, everything mixed together like chaos.
But one man stood still in the crowd, watching everything carefully. It was Chioma's school customer, the man who owned the school she supplied akara to. He had come to the hotel to meet his friend, whom is the owner of the hotel, but what he saw stopped him completely. He watched Chioma walk away in the rain. He watched Tunde standing there, frozen and speechless, and something in his chest tightened. Because he knew her. He knew her strength. He knew how she worked hard under sun and rain just to feed her children. But he never knew the pain behind her eyes. He stepped forward slowly, his jaw tightening. He looked at Tunde, then at Chioma disappearing into the distance. And for a moment, anger rose in him. Not loud, but deep, controlled. Because he had always admired Chioma, not just her food, but her resilience, her strength, the way she never gave up. He had once told himself he would never interfere in her personal life. He only wanted to support her silently. But now, he couldn't stay silent in his heart anymore. He looked at Tunde again, his expression cold, almost like he wanted to say something or hit him, almost like he wanted to step forward. But he didn't. Instead, he just watched Chioma disappear into the rain with her children, while Tunde remained standing in the middle of everything he had destroyed. And then, the man finally spoke under his breath, barely audible. "This woman," he paused, "she has been suffering like this." His fists slowly tightened, and as Chioma's silhouette faded into the distance, what will happen when the man who has been silently helping her finally decides he cannot stay silent anymore?